Wisconsin is going back to work.
I'm Steve Walders.
And I'm J.R. Ross.
This is Rewind, Wisconsin Eye's summary of this week in the Capitol. J.R., as the dough turns, just amazing. So the Wall Street Journal, in an editorial, unsourced, the governor's lawyer is trying to cut a deal with prosecutors. But then ever since, I'll tell you what, JR, yesterday I had the good fortune to spend most of the day on a dairy farm taping a show. Bring me up to date, back and forth, who's ahead? Go ahead.
Well, first off, the Wall Street Journal says that Stephen Buskupik, former U.S. attorney, who's Governor Walker's attorney as well, is trying to negotiate some kind of settlement. Now, what's that settlement entail? Nobody knows. But the Wall Street Journal made it sound like there's a concern among conservatives that Governor Walker's trying to cut some kind of deal to end the dough and then extract some kind of concessions or whatever from these conservative groups. Now, Governor Walker gave us a classic non-denial yesterday, saying that—
Two-sentence statement.
Yes. He's not a party to the federal suit, has no standing in the federal suit, therefore he cannot settle a federal suit. However, there are at least 3 state-based, state court-based actions pertaining to the dough right now. So they didn't address those, and of course he's not clarifying what's going on. Since then, we now have the Club for Growth and Eric O'Keefe, who sued in federal court, have now gone to Waukesha County Court today, just suing the GAB, saying that basically the agency overstepped its authority, went beyond what the scope of what it can do, and it's been illegally spending taxpayer money on the John Doe. The bottom line here is that, one, Walker is all of a sudden, who has been a rock star with conservatives, has really irritated, to say it mildly, the Wall Street Journal, which is a national publication when it comes to Republican politics. This guy wants to run for president, and he's pissing off the Wall Street Journal. They're saying, take him to task, saying, why are you doing this? These guys have won in court. You are have to choose which side you're on, the side of freedom or your own self-interest, essentially. Very, very damaging editorial from talking to people. 2, we're still in court where the federal special prosecutor asked this week, hey, what can I do in this case? Because remember that Judge Randa in the federal case said this investigation is over. Now that's on appeal, but he issued this injunction, which still is in place, and Francis Smith went back and said, okay, what can I and what I cannot do, alluding to negotiations in a state suit. Okay. So we've got all these like mashing.
Well, let me ask you this. Quite frankly, the dairy cow's a lot more easy to understand. So is it a triangle here? You have the governor and his lawyers, Club for Growth, and then you have the prosecutors. As we sit here midday on Friday, who had the better week, or is that just not?
It's easy to see who had the worst week. That was Governor Walker. This puts him in a bad spot. The question is, what's he trying to get? And the problem is, we don't know what those negotiations are about, what their goal was, the exact details of them, and what's happening is all these folks are filling the vacuum of, well, he must be trying to get this, he's trying to get that, and so we don't know what's going on. So it looks bad for Walker because of that.
Okay, and I think we'll hear more on that later. I was also surprised. J.B. Van Hollen, the Attorney General, files a motion with Judge Crabb saying, when, or if, or maybe the best word is when, you strike down our constitutional ban on same-sex marriage, please issue a stay. Now, were you surprised that J.B. filed that?
A little unusual, I'd put it that way.
Okay. Why? Because she hasn't ruled yet?
Yeah. I mean, usually that comes after the decision. You immediately ask for a stay. But Van Hollen seemed to be hinting that, he expects it to come down. Remember, he said in a recent interview that, it's likely to be overturned. Indicated at least it was likely to be overturned. So everybody, and you look at all the other court cases, all the other state-based bans that we've seen ever since the U.S. Supreme Court decision on the Defensive Marriage Act, they've all been struck down. Am I right? They've all been struck down.
Pennsylvania was the last one.
Yeah.
And I just did an interview with Jelaine Appling of Wisconsin Family Council. Are you disappointed that JB is asking for a stay for a decision? And she said, no, it's prudent. Because in Pennsylvania, the judge didn't issue the stay, so immediately you had this chaos, couples filed in, and now the Dane County Clerk is tripling the number of employees, anticipating, number one, the ruling, number one, same-sex couples win, so they're going to be coming in to marry. Pretty amazing developments this week.
Well, there has been some confusion in other states where decisions are issued, then there's this kind of void, if you will, or period of what can and can't we do. Some clerks do it, some clerks don't, and So yeah, so in that regard, you cannot understand it, but usually, again, you wait for the decision first. It's almost like he's conceding before the battle is over.
And just a final note, Jelaine Appling did tell me that there are hearings scheduled before Judge Crabb August 25th. So she doesn't think it might come as quickly as perhaps you've been hearing.
People can't expect that she's going to, because remember, those suing have asked for a summary judgment now.
Yes.
We don't need any more court testimony. So that, yes, there is a trial out there, but there's an expectation she's going to rule. And by the way, the other thing in Van Hollen's filing was the indication they're going to appeal it right away to the 7th Circuit. So they're already preparing, if you will, for the next round in this fight.
Yeah, and Appling says this would be the first case that would go to the 7th Circuit from this region. Mary Burke made some news this week. I'm going to start with, she went to the Zoo Freeway construction site, and she said, I like toll roads. But when I was at the GOP convention, I interviewed Congressman Pete Rye, and he's chair of the subcommittee. He reminded me that there's a federal law that says you cannot charge tolls on existing interstates and major highways. So it would take a major change. So do you think Burke scored any points by saying she likes tolls? Assembly Speaker Voss likes tolls.
Well, if you look at the latest Marquette University Law School poll, 56% I think it was, were okay with tolls for interstates. So at least the public is, by that measure, okay with it. The issue for her more is that she's trying to portray Governor Walker as not doing roads in a responsible way, saying he's grabbing GPR, the stuff that's supposed to go to schools, local governments, Medicaid, those kinds of things, and pulling it into the road fund. And he's also borrowing more money to pay for it. Now, you can argue about borrowing for road projects, but the argument, that side says, hey, they're long-term projects. They last for 25 years. You pay it off like a house.
But this budget, we're borrowing $993 million.
Yes.
That is not a sustainable route. Can I ask you one more thing about
Absolutely.
Mary Burke? 10-year-old, the tragic shooting, a 10-year-old girl. Is there any political victors in the back and forth over violence in Milwaukee between Burke and Walker?
I don't know if there's a victor. There's a lot more noise about it. Every time that one of them opens up a fire, the other one comes back at it. So not a clear-cut victor, if you will, but Governor Walker is not going to do well in the city of Milwaukee come November. Burke has to do well in the city of Milwaukee come November. I mean, the formula for Democrats anymore in Wisconsin is run up the score in Milwaukee and Dane counties and hold court in the Fox Valley. If you can do that, you're going to win.
Franklin's poll, just the city of Milwaukee, Burke 71%, Walker 10%.
Yeah.
Final subject, JR, there's a fiscal cloud approaching potentially.
Possibly.
Is it a storm tornado? You're referring to the Legislative Fiscal Bureau report. What about
actually,
that?
Numbers from the Department of Revenue for April tax
DOR,
collections.
thank you.
Yeah. Show that they're down a little bit. Now, here's the thing. They were going to be down anyway because, one, there were tax cuts in the 13-15 budget that took effect. Two, withholding tables have been adjusted, so there's some effect there. But even with that, Bob Lang from the Fiscal Bureau says they're a little bit weaker than they expect, a little soft. Now, a couple caveats. June, big month for corporate tax collections. He said wait for that to see what happens. That month, that will tell us more. But if these continue to be soft, if there's a problem, Governor Walker has kind of built the foundation of his fiscal stewardship by the state of Wisconsin on, I turned around a deficit, I found a way to balance the budget, and now I've cut taxes, and we've had these rosy revenue projections.
3 tax cuts.
In, 12 months, 13 months,
15
something
months.
like that?
Yep.
I've done all that, and we're on good footing. This could erode a little bit that message if, and again, a big if. Another thing is, even if numbers are somewhat soft after June, they're not, from what I can see right now, in like red alert panic area. It's more like the Walker administration could find ways to move some money around, manage costs, and make it through this fiscal year if they're still in office, after November, and make it all work till the next budget's done.
Still, you and I were surprised. The fiscal year ends on June 30th. Through April, which is 10 of the 12 months, there was a 0.2% drop in GPRs. But the backdrop, as you said, we had tax cuts, lower withholding tables. So to be decided, but this could be another major issue in the campaign for
Absolutely.
God. Okay. Time for WisPolitics stock.
Rising crowdfunding, this new thing we have in Wisconsin starting Sunday, where if you're a company in the state, you can go to people online and raise money for your company. It's a new thing. Happened a couple other places, I think, but it should be a new avenue for Wisconsin-based companies to raise capital to get off the ground from Wisconsin investors. So good thing for them. Mixed Public employee insurance.
Oh, that's
self-insurance is back again. Remember
Yes.
last
the
fall?
idea
it
of
kinda
self-insurance, yes.
came up and was put down, but also the Walker administration put on RFP last Friday asking for bids. The thing is, it's unknown how it's going to play out. There is one train of thought that if you go to self-insurance, basically the state covers all the costs of its insurance, no more insurance company, you could save $20 million. Right. The other train of thought, you could lose.
That's the good news.
Yeah, $100 million. So it's kind of up in the air. But Walker has been trying to pave this path as a reformer, as somebody thinks outside the box, and this kind of fits in with that. In his mind, what he wants to do, it also scares public employees because they don't know what's going to happen or what the state may do to rein in costs going down the road.
But he's going to get this consultant reports back in time if he's reelected for the
Yeah.
2015-2017 budget.
Yes.
So he's telegraphing we could have a major issue here.
Yes.
Falling.
Scott Walker, I mean, this Doe thing is not good for him. It comes on the heels of soft, poll numbers in the Marquette poll. The Cook political report today just changed the Wisconsin governor's race from lean Republican to a toss-up.
Oh, really?
So we got that going on. You've got the soft revenue numbers. I mean, for Governor Walker, this is not a good combination of things. Now, again, it's still May, almost June. It's not like it's panic time, but that Doe thing could really be a huge issue for him, in part because if you're a conservative group, you've gone to bat for Governor Walker, he is your rock star, and all of a sudden now you feel like he's trying to save his own hide and not look out for your interest.
Right.
You may feel less motivated come November to work for him. Now, the flip side is that some of the Walker backers I've talked to is that these folks are unhappy about this free speech case in their minds. They view themselves as like, First Amendment warriors, if you will. This is a principle case about, standing firm and saying this is what we should be able to do. That's not what it's all about to them.
Right.
So they feel like there's a little bit of self-interest there, and it's obvious that somebody has some self-interest leaking to Wall Street Journal, otherwise we'll get an editorial page anonymously.
Editorial page, not a news story.
Yes.
You and I as reporters, we couldn't get away with that, but that's another subject. Next show, we're going to preview the Democratic State Convention.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to have a chance. I'm going to do an interview with Mike Tate that you won't be there. What's number one question for Mike Tate, preview of the convention?
Probably how does Mary Burke come out of this? A big unified party, all happy behind her. Brett Hulsey is still making noise about he's going to show up. He wants to volunteer. He's going to hand out DVDs of the speech he would have given. I mean, they're trying their best not to have a scene with Brett Hulsey, but Brett Hulsey's strength is causing scenes. So I get the impression from a lot of folks around Madison that he has jumped the shark a bit with them after that stunt at the Republican convention. So there's that. It's about, really for them, it's about getting jazzed up. Democrats nationally are not as enthused as Republicans. They need to have an excited party in Wisconsin to beat Scott Walker. If they're not, it's going to be harder for them.
We're going to preview the Democratic State Convention 1 week from today. That's Rewind for May 30th. I'm Steve Walters.
And I'm J.R. Ross.